Hey YouTube, RicoKnows here. Going to give you guys a transfer portal update. And if you didn't hear, Chris Hardie just committed to Ole Miss. So, let's talk about this. Who the hell is Chris Hardie? Well, I told you guys about Chris Hardie, and I've been talking about him nonstop since like January. He wasn't even in the transfer portal. And I was saying this is the best small school guy. Everybody needs to pay attention. You need to sign this young man. He's NFL caliber. He can play anywhere. And On3, 24/7 Sports, Rivals, none of those websites would acknowledge Chris Hardie. They wouldn't put him on any top 10 list, any top 5 list. Just the other day, they put top 5 defenders in the transfer portal, and they didn't list Chris Hardie. This is a man who had 8.5 sacks last year, first team all-conference, 61 tackles, and you ignored him. But when it comes to a top 10 team in the SEC, they didn't ignore him. They listened to everything I had to say, and they went and signed him. Now, congratulations to Chris Hardie for, going to a perennial power, going to a program that has a trajectory that's really like this, right? Ole Miss looks like they're doing everything correctly. Shout out to Lane Kiffin and his entire staff for continuing to stockpile talented players. And they're signing so many great players out of the transfer portal, and they don't really care about those players' careers. They don't really care about giving those players any amount of playing time. They have one job: win games. The coaching staff at Ole Miss have one objective: get my best 85, and we'll figure out the rest. They don't give a shit who plays. Don't care. You can ask Franklin in the wide receiver room. You can ask Sanders in the quarterback room. You can ask Trigg in the tight end room. I could literally go through every single position group and point out star players they convinced to transfer there, and they don't really concern themselves with whether or not you're getting the playing time you anticipated. I can remember last year, they had a transfer come in pretty late in the cycle, I want to say after the spring, and it was Isaac Ukwu, one of my favorite pass rushers. I could only imagine what Isaac Ukwu would have done at JMU last year with Green on the other side. Like, JMU had one of the most dominant defensive lines you'd ever seen. And they lose Isaac Ukwu to Ole Miss. And what happened in this last year? Well, Isaac Ukwu went from dominating 7.5 sacks. He goes into the SEC, becomes a rotational player, and he finishes the season with 30 tackles, 3.5 sacks. Nothing to really write home about. Goes undrafted, and now he's an undrafted free agent. I'm not saying it's a terrible thing. What I'm saying is I don't know if it necessarily went the way he envisioned, right? Now, I will say this. There's a huge difference in size between Isaac Ukwu and Chris Hardie. I don't know if we're trying to get Chris Hardie to be one of the more athletic defensive tackles, but if you sign Princely Umanley out of Florida and you see that guy every day at practice, man, we need more help on this defensive edge. We need some more help on this pass rush. And you definitely got that. I want to give a special shout out to Chris Hardie. I know he's a friend of the channel. He's written to me on Twitter before, and I know he watches the videos. And I just want to say, man, I'm pulling for you. I hope you didn't make a mistake. I hope you get everything out of this decision, and I hope it's everything you dreamed of. But I want you to know, Ole Miss coaches have one objective: get the very best players on that team that they can, and then go out and win games. They do not concern themselves with players' playing time. They do not concern themselves with whether or not you're going to be happy. That's not part of the checklist. So you can see this depth chart here. Now, it's not accurate. Shout out to our lads. They always try to be accurate. But you can see this depth chart. It's littered with yellow. That yellow are transfers or true freshmen coming in. And I'd imagine, Chris Hardie's better than any true freshman coming in. He's better than any high school player you're going to find. That's a grown man right there. So I'm excited for him. I'm excited for Ole Miss. You got another win in the transfer portal. I always pull for teams winning in the transfer portal. I just hope these young men, when they make these decisions, they don't end up another number, another statistic by going to one of these perennial powers. Now, I don't care. I already told you. This was the best player left in the portal as of this morning. Okay, the very best defender left in the portal was Chris Hardie. I put out a whole post on that just yesterday. If you missed the post, go and watch it. But I told you guys my top defenders in the transfer portal right here. I put Chris Hardie. I had no idea Ole Miss was going to sign him. But this goes to show you when Rivals does a top 5 list of all these guys, and I'm telling you, the guy I'm naming is going to an SEC school and one of the top 10 teams in the country. It's a little different from the rest of these guys. You know, you're talking about recruits with potential. I'm talking about actual players. The only guy on this list, there's two of them. Dorian Jones, a lot of playing time and actually doing it on Saturdays. And shout out to Jacoby Matthews, he's actually a pretty good player. But the other three, it's just some recruiting misses. I don't get down with that. I've always believed in Chris Hardie. I've been talking about him for a while. Go ahead and look up his name and look up RicoKnows TikTok. You'll know the deal. Your friends don't know, but Rico knows. Congrats.